everyone, Joe here from ActionX, and welcome to What's in the Tube. Welcome back. It is your 11th Suits LA episode review. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're staying safe out there in the big old world. I'm very sad for myself that spring has hit New York properly. It is now very warm. It is now rainy season, and my studio is very much enclamperated with heat. So wearing this full suit, well, actually, no, I'm doing the Tom Holland method, so I'm not wearing like proper pants below. You don't see my pants on my, I'm just wearing shorts to like alleviate some airflow over here, but it's very uncomfortable. It's a little bit uncomfortable. But here we are. We're approaching the very end, I've been very critical on this series so far. I really haven't had much to talk about that was really, really, really positive. Just a couple positives, as I noticed there. Things that they can improve on. With that all being said, I thought this was a really good episode. It's really weird for me to say, wait, Joseph likes this episode a lot? Really? I think for me, it's my favorite episode of the season so far because I don't know what to say because, this isn't a story. Because for me, I thought that the producer thing was going to be the first half and then the not David Bowie was going to be the whole second half. But the fact we kind of wrapped that up last week and now we're kind of really going into like the last three with like not really a very much of a set where are we going with this, mind you. I mean, I have a feeling where the last two episodes is going to lie, but I don't entirely think it's going to be in the way that we were expecting, which I'm not. This episode was a guest star galore. We had 3 major guest stars that I love very much, and it was just so funny. It really, really was. That by the end of it, this being more of a, in a weird way, a character-building relationship episode, it was like, we hadn't had one of those in a while. Like, this was very focused on, like, the primary 4 and Amanda and a little bit of Samantha. And this was, I think it worked for its benefit. It really did, that we didn't have a major story arc going. We were just kind of letting the characters kind of be themselves, kind of like, let's see what they're doing with their current thing right now. And I think that paid off, in my opinion. I really did enjoy this episode a lot. I really did. I'm not going to say it's an amazing episode, but I think that, there's a couple of things I was like, okay, some of the delivery was like, okay, it is what it is. But other than that, no, I thought this was a really fun episode. I think this is the best of the season so far. And, I hope that the remaining 2 are just kind of, meeting that level, if not elevating it. Hopefully this is where they found their stride. Because I know they were shooting the tail end of the show of this season when the show was premiering. So I'm very hopeful maybe some of the critiques that maybe some people had were finally starting to take effect here. I mean, hopefully this is just the beginning of like a road up, in my opinion. But we'll see how it goes. We'll see. But with all that being said, let's go through the Butcher recap and talk about this week's episode of Suits LA. So, if I can recall, for some weird reason, and this was a very much of an interesting choice for the episode, we begin with our dear Stewart dancing to a 90s song. I don't know what I've heard of this song before, but I don't know what the artist group is, to be honest with you. He's jamming, he's rocking, and I'm like, damn, he's just really old. His kids are kind of on their headphones in the back seat, just kind of like very much not in focus there. Stewart does look down for a brief moment as he scrolls up ahead a little bit, where he does hit the car in front of him, and we get our first major guest star for the episode, which is the lovely, talented Yvette Nicole Brown. For me, I know her as Helen from Drake and Josh. I know she was in Community. I heard that was an amazing show. I haven't gotten to it yet. It's on the list for the future, but it's not something I'm still finishing up Brooklyn Nine-Nine. That's how far back I am. But no, and which is funny considering the fact that from what I heard, The Last of Us had a Josh Peck cameo. So you have these 2 characters from Drake and Josh appear on television and guest starring roles on different platforms on the same time period. So I'm like, that's so cool. That really is. I'm really hoping Drake made a cameo somewhere in the television sphere. He had to be somewhere. But so she gets mad over Stewart for like knocking into her, and then immediately Stewart starts going into defense mode, trying to like say, no, this was your fault. Like, you didn't move up at the correct pace. And, the 2 get into like really much into a big hissy fit. Even Stewart giving her insurance card just to get away from this. However, he does insult her, saying that, from the Drake and Josh and Community shows that I just mentioned before, and she gets really insulted by it. And he drives away after dropping off his kids, having to pick up a loaner car, since sadly his car is mildly dented, so he had no choice but to switch out his cars. He meets up with Samantha at the front of their law firm, and Samantha's asking, why are you at a loaner car? And he's like, oh no, some freaking school mom like stopped and I hit into her and we have this whole debacle. So I got to deal with that. It was just some low level actress nobody. And then Samantha's like, really? What's her name? And so it's like, I'd rather not say. I mean, the freaking movie theater manager from Drake and Josh. She's like, yeah, she's Rick's client. And Stewart's like, well, that's just freaking great. And then that's when Samantha implores her, look, for the sake of business, and to keep your good relationship with Rick intact, you're going to have to take the L and apologize to her because otherwise we are not in the business to lose clients right now. So you best talk to Rick about negotiating a peace treaty between you and her because we are not losing this client. And obviously Stewart gets really, really peevy about it because that was not in his plan expectation, mind you. I believe we cut over to Amanda. She's at court. She's beginning the segue to trial for the client she poached last week, which would have been her first real major client for the firm. However, trying to get her client emancipated from her dad at 2 years from the legal age. Sadly, her argument was very much non-existent, so the judge does not approve of it. However, he will approve to go to trial on this case, dealing with the matter of the daughter hitting her father during a heated argument. So that's going to be pursuing forward into proper court. Then we get the first flashback where we're in proper 2010 again. Do not worry. We are not seeing bad wigs and very, very, very too much dye hair for Ted. As Ted and Eddie are in town for Stewart's bachelor party. That's right. Stewart is now getting married. He's getting ready to go. Ted and Eddie made the flight out to enjoy it and everything of the sort. They are here for a very limited time, so they are here for one day for Stewart's bachelor party. The next day, Eddie does want to go meet up with Samantha. However, Ted's like, I don't think that's the best idea. I really don't. Stewart shows up immediately, embraces Eddie as the three get ready for a wild night out. Even Ted thanking Stewart for the delay in his bachelor party so Eddie could attend. Which is very much working out. And obviously, Ted just got fired from the DA's office, so he's kind of in between jobs right now. And Stewart is kind of mildly broaching him on like moving out to LA, kind of restarting his law career here and everything. So, but Ted's not really down for the idea, so he's just ready to like kind of hit it, have a fun time, and go back home and figure out what's next for him after that. We cut back to present day where I do remember, yes, I forgot to mention, so since Amanda was not able to get the emancipation for her client and also access to her funds, she does not have any money to pay for her services. So sadly, because Amanda is who she is, decided to go pro bono, which obviously irks Ted a little bit, considering the fact that this was not the plan. You are now the head of criminal defense, criminal defense, stating you were going to poach a major entertainment client for us, which would have been a big double whammy. But now the fact you're representing her pro bono is not exactly a good message to send to the rest of the partners right now, who are basically keeping an eye out for you. And Amanda just replied, "I don't care about that. Like, it's not my place. Like, I'm just doing right by my client. That's about it." And it's like, yeah, which is fair. However, an idea we could do to kind of, improve your image is if you let Erica take her over as her entertainment lawyer while you continue to defend her as her criminal defense lawyer. That could be a good way to, like, spin it around and make sure that everything, all the ducks are in a row for that one. Meanwhile, Ted also has to deal with the returning Patton Oswalt, who is back. Apparently, Patton managed to get a brand new deal, brand new movie in the works, and he's ready to sign. Ted's obviously trying to get him a much more better deal with more money, bigger payday. But Patton's like, no, I've been waiting for a role like that. He wants to be an action movie star, so he's ready to go on this one. So he's ready to go. He doesn't care about the contract. He doesn't care about his pay rate. He's ready to sign today. And Ted's like, all right, you're the client. You make the rules. Let's do it. So Ted runs off to go get the contract while Patton looks into one of the meeting rooms and finds our very lovable Brian Bogman back in there, which I'm like, very interesting. He's back over there. Like, it's very interesting. Obviously, the two haven't seen each other since the episode where the two had that play fight, so that Brian can get the confidence to really pursue another second chance at acting again outside of the comedy sphere. But so the two kind of make up about it, and Obviously Patton still feels bad about, insulting him like that. So Patton offers him, I can do whatever you want, like, to make it up to you. Like, I feel bad. And Brian's like, interesting you say that, because I know you just got a new movie. So as the lead, so I'm like, I'm hoping maybe you can give me a part on it. Maybe we can, like, take it somewhere over there. And of course, obviously, Patton remembering what they talked about previously in the other episode is that Pat speaks to him, well, you want a dramatic role. This is not a dramatic, it's an action role. These are two very different genres. Like, I don't think this is exactly the stepping stone in your career that you want to take, but Brian's like being insistent and like, no, like, this is something, it's still a role at the end of the day. It's still not comedy based, so it definitely is something he wants to pursue, but Patton doesn't really want to go for it, to be honest with you. And the two start bickering again, and that's when Brian brings up the fact that, Patton cannot do any of his own stunts and everything, and, I'm basically insulting him, and, Patton overreacts, like, jumping on Brian's back, which I'm just like, I love it. I really love this scene so much, just these two actors, like, bickering around like they're brothers. And Ted comes into the room, diffuses the fight, and just, like, saying, what the hell happened here? Like, this cannot be happening right now. And Patton's like, I'm sorry? I should let my emotions get to me. So they head over to the room, they look over the contract, but however, Patton wants to make one more addition. He wants to do his own stunts, which, yes, is stemming from his recent argument from Brian, but he does want to do his own stunt, just to prove to Hollywood he is the next Tom Cruise, and he's ready to go. And obviously Ted's, like, very much, shocked by this, because, like, this was not in any of our original arrangement. He gets concerned about this, but Patton kind of talks him down of it, and like, no, this is what I want to do. I think I want to do this, so let's do this. So Ted's like, okay, I'll see what I can do. Then we cut over to Stuart talking to Rick about everything that happened with Yvette, even Stuart trying to bribe him with a Danish, which Stuart does reply, which Rick does reply, they're like, okay, what do you need from me? And then Stuart briefly explained what happened with Yvette, and then he's like, oh, so you're the angry dad, and obviously the two start bickering a little bit. And while Rick agrees that these two needs to make up before things get worse, he does clarify that this is Stuart's mess, and he needs to fix it. So the least that he can do is to go to Yvette and apologize to her and tell her that he's going to cover for all the damages, which, again, Stuart doesn't want to do, but for the sake of the firm, he has no choice but to comply by it. At the same time, Amanda goes to speak with Erica about poaching the young actress as her client, which, again, Erica's very much in disbelief in this denial for it, because, again, she's 2 years away from legal age. She has no financial value until she turns 18. So essentially, even Erica would be picking her up without any financial, earnings for her for 2 years, which, again, is very much, not settling her, but she decides to, okay, fine, I'll do it. But this is the last time I'm doing it. Because she goes straight to Ted to let him know, like, next time you want me to poach a client, you go and tell me, not to let Amanda do it just because you think I'm going to be nicer to her. And the two bicker a little bit about it, just like, Ted's just thinking from a different perspective, like, do you really want, like, me to poach her when, like, she's clearly got daddy issues right now in court, and she's a very young, aspiring actress. What do you think that's going to say for the trades? And Erica's like, fair point. Okay, I'll do it, but, next time, you better refer to yourself for your real age, because, Ted's calling himself 40, which I'm like, Ted, you look great, you really do, but you obviously are not 40. You are more of a 45-year-old, so to speak. Then we come back to the flashback where Ted and Stuart are ready to begin a round of karaoke, which I'm just like, Stephen Amell finally singing after more than a decade. Because I just think I remember when I was in very early college. So I'm saying that because I'm very old. I am like 10 years away, 10 years past, well, soon to be 10 years past my graduation year in high school. So that's how old I am right now. But I still remember when they were doing the musical crossover for the Arrowverse for The Flash and Supergirl that Stephen Amell made it very clear he was not going to sing at all. He had no musical want to be here. And the fact that after all this time, we finally hear him sing a bit. It's not a real singing. It's karaoke, but still, the fact that they were able to do this was like, it was funny. It really, really was. Eddie's recorded the whole thing, and then Patton comes over. I forgot what initiates it, to be honest with you. I guess Patton was just looking to make easy conversation. That's when Eddie notices, oh my God, you're from King and Queens and Ratatouille. And obviously, Patton's flattered by it. The two start speaking a little bit kindly. Then a random fan comes over to Patton trying to, speak to him a little bit, trying to get his autograph, which Patton declines politely. Can you give me a second? I'm talking to my friend, obviously. And the guy starts insulting Eddie as well, calling him a Make-A-Wish kid. That's when Patton obviously says, you know what? Fuck you, kid. Pardon my French. As of that, you are not going to get my autograph after all, so you're going to have to deal with it. So the jerk pushes Patton to the floor, which I'm just like, you motherfucker, you do not push Remy from Ratatouille on the floor. I swear to God. Thankfully, Ted responds correctly by punching him straight in the jaw, telling him he's got anything more to say, which he immediately runs away from. Patton gets picked up as Ted introduces himself properly to Mr. Patton Oswalt, which we'll cut to that momentarily. I forgot at the same time Ted talks to Erica about Patton, about I just noticed Brian Brogman was here. He saw Patton, and all of a sudden Patton wants to start doing his own stunts. So I'm wondering, did you have any knowledge of that? And Erica does let slip that she did use Patton not too long ago to assist in Brian's issues, that perhaps this recent turmoil caused something in Patton's brain to think about about the direction of his career as well. It's a possibility which Ted has to take into consideration a little bit, but also thinking about him, his own genuine well-being and his own real want to do this sort of thing in reality. Stewart sets up a meeting with Yvette, having rehearsed an entire apology speech, ready to go pay up. But Yvette's like, I don't buy it. This was clearly scripted and you're so stiff as hell. So, yeah, no, you're not doing that. You really want to, make me drop this? You're going to have to do a lot of things for me. And then obviously that's when Stewart immediately snaps. He goes back on the offensive against her, insulting her and saying that's it. I'm never, ever going to work with you again. Never, ever. And you are going to get out of this building. I ain't never going to see you again. And, I think that pushed Yvette to the limit a little bit, which we'll come back to momentarily. I know from a flashback we're back in trial, the first proper day, and once again, apparently the court wants to charge Amanda's client as an adult because of just the gravity of the extent of the damage. However, Amanda manages to argue that, okay, so if you're treating her as an adult in the eyes of the court, you should also treat her as an adult for her emancipation, which again causes a really big discourse between the court and the prosecutor, because we can't. That's the thing I always I respect about it. You can't call someone an adult for this. We can't call them for that. It's got to be all or none. That's just my opinion. I've always been on the mindset of if you're gonna be called an adult, you're gonna have all of the benefits and declinations from it, or you're just not. It's just there's no ifs, ands, or buts on that. There really isn't. So that kind of reaches to a stalemate in court, which we'll come back to momentarily. We return to the flashback where Ted and Patton talk for a little bit. Patton apparently knows about Ted already from his case with the back in New York, which Ted obviously appreciates the identification, even though Ted could not identify this man. I mean, come on, Ted, know your facts straight. And even Patton offers Ted hey, if you ever become an entertainment lawyer, give me a call. I'd be down for you to represent me. And obviously Ted at first was like, nah, I'm not interested. So he hangs up while he and Stewart, who is completely gone, he's just drunk off his horse. But to just resume off with their with the bachelor night properly. Ted in present day goes to speak to Patton about everything, and Pat's still very much determined on doing the stunts. He doesn't want to back out. He still wants to prove what he's got, and Ted respects that. However, Ted shows Patton an animatic of the proposed stunt that he would have to be doing for the movie, which involves him jumping off a plane with I forgot the name of it. Parachute. And the parachute doesn't work, and so Patton would have to do all of this and still make it safely on the ground while still doing all these stunts, as well as they're going to have to take an $11 million policy out on him because obviously, it's just the sake of the financial value for Patton. So eventually he decides, okay, no, I still want to do this no matter what. Don't worry about it. I'm a very dedicated person to my craft, which I'm I have more respect for you, Patton. I do have more respect for you. So I think eventually Stewart does get a notification, goes back to Rick. Apparently his conversation with Yvette did not go well, apparently, as he has received an order from the school that he is no longer allowed to be on the premises of the school at all because of what he did to Yvette. Yvette even like stretching the truth on some of the things that Stewart said to her earlier, which obviously he gets mad about, he gets very pissy about, and he's just like, going back on the defense of like, look, I got kids. They're at that school. They're at the top of their social parameters right now. I need to be there. They can't bench me from like seeing my own kids in school. And while Rick complies by it, it's like, okay, fine. I will do what I can to speak to her. Just hang tight for a bit. Just hang tight. I know Amanda and Erica staged a little meeting between Amanda's client and her dad about everything. They do hash it out a lot, but the main point, even though that Amanda's client was morally claiming that her dad only wants to not emancipate her to still have access to the money, her dad is very much being super protective of her, saying that if you do this adult role, people are just going to view you as a sex icon, and at the same time, you having access to all the money you earn over the many years, I don't think it's going to influence you. I don't think you're responsible and mature yet to handle that amount of money, which again, they reached to another plateau about that, with everything going on. And the reason why Amanda's so gung-ho about this case is that when she was around her client's age, she was saving up for her college fund. She had a pretty good sizable amount saved up. And then one day her dad withdrew all the money from the accounts and got in trouble with the law one day. And sadly, Amanda had to lie to the court to get her dad scot-free out of this. So, which again, was a sacrifice that Amanda had to make. And now her being in the opposite shoe, she just wants to make sure that her client is getting a much better deal than when she received when she was a kid not too long ago. Which all makes very much sense by that point. I know the last flashback we properly get was, Ted laments. He knows what his brother wants. So he does arrange for Eddie to spend the entire day with Samantha at the beach while Ted just watches. So the two catch up, and they seem to be on amicable terms. But sadly, again, like I said, Samantha probably, does not trust Ted right now. So any sort of signs of reconciliation is really out the window right now. But I can tell they do have, very much lingering love for each other right now as Eddie goes away with him. Also, apparently, Ted's dad was also fully convicted on his charges. But Eddie doesn't know about it yet. But Ted wants to save until after they come back from vacation to let him know what's going on to not ruin the vacation for him. So he leaves it there for that. Rick goes to talk to Yvette about everything, even though he tries to bring up to the fact that, that Stewart has kids. All he wants to do is just be on the school premises to support his kids. Yvette said, I understand that, but I'm not going to just let him go away scot-free for all the things he said to me. So she gives Rick 3 things that he would have to do to regain her respect. Number 1, he cannot listen to 90s music in the car, which I'm like, I agree on that. Number 2, he's going to have to make a poem and speak in front of the entire school building, professing his apologies to me. And number 3, he has to take an anger management class, which the last one, okay, this is Stewart we're talking about. I don't think it's going to fly, to be honest with you. Which it does not, because when Rick goes to tell him that specific piece of the deal, immediately he starts overreacting. He immediately starts like kind of, saying that she's threatening everything. She's threatening my family. And then like that's when Rick gets confirmed. Like, well, what are you talking about? Like, she's not even talking to your family. She was mainly talking to you. And that's kind of like when I realized, oh, he's still kind of reeling in from last week when not David Bowie. So Rick heads over back to the black firm where he talks to Ted and lets him know what's going on with Stewart. And then Ted goes all the way down to the other firm to speak to him. And obviously, Stewart is bringing up to the fact that, he was focused on, Yvette. And then all of a sudden it kind of morphed into what was going on last week with not David Bowie. And the fact that he can't get that out of his brain now, like the fact that, his wife and kids could always be in danger at any moment if, not David Bowie decides to think about targeting them, which Ted tries to calm him down, just like, just tell Holly the truth, tell your wife the truth, just, at least for full transparency, which Stewart says no. He even yells at him, like, I don't want to because I don't want to scare her. I don't want to have her live in fear about it, which Ted understands, but also Stewart also understands that he needs help, that you can't live in this state of fear. Obviously, what not David Bowie is doing is very horrible, but at the same time, you need to have financial family security with the people you love. So, Stewart admits there that he does need some sort of help about that. He needs some support with that. So he decides to take a week off from work. He's going to take a business trip to get checked in and get some of the assistance he needs to get through this. And Ted goes up to speak to Samantha about it and to to let him know that Stuart needs some time off, that he'll be back next week in time for the next episode, and that Samantha said, okay, I'm totally understanding of that. Even Samantha wondering, like, even after all this time, you still care, you still love him like a brother, and Ted's like, I guess I do. The two share a drink in silence as, we wrap the episode there. So for me, I think this was a really good episode. I really, really think it was. I think, between the guest stars, not knowing about Stewart's battles within, like, I didn't even connect the dots till later on. And, just, even the flashback stuff being just fun. Like, this is exactly what I mean. Like for me, I was always told that this was going to be a show about Ted and Stewart's relationship. And the fact this episode focused on both fronts, seeing something on the modern day and the flashback front, it was really nice to see. It really, really was. And I wish for more from it because, again, it fleshes out this connection more. And on the same time, in the present day, Ted's still getting a little bit more progress with Erica, Stuart with Rick. It's like it was all really nice. And then Amanda getting her own kind of subline going on with her own case was it was really nice to see. It really, really was. And I love Patton Oswalt, so immediately any episode with Patton Oswalt was going to shoot straight up to the top, which, this is unconditional bias right there. I'm just being completely frank with you about that. But no, man, I think we might be on a good track. I really hope so. I hope the next two episodes continue to build off this, this good momentum the show's been on right now. And I do hope when we come back next week, maybe we'll deliver a great episode. Who knows? I really don't know. But we inch towards the finale very, very soon. And can't wait to see how it's all going to continue on from here. So with that being said, I'm getting this episode 1.5 thumbs up. Let me know down below what you think of this week's episode of Suits LA. I would love to hear your comments down below. As always, I would love to have a conversation with you about it. But I believe that's going to do it for me today, everyone. So if you're unaware, this has been What's the Two from ActionX, reviewing every episode in the hopeful first season of Suits LA. If you want to know what we're doing normal What's the Two besides our Suits LA episode reviews. Right now, we're just doing rookie reviews each and every Tuesdays after Brandon is on ABC. But if you don't care about Suits LA, you're in luck. We'll be back next week with another brand new episode review for you. So just to give you a little head, next week will be the penultimate episode review. The following after that will be hopefully the season finale review. And then the week after that, you'll get a hypothetical season 2 predictions video. And then the following week, a spoiler-free season 1 review. For anyone who has yet to catch the first season of Suits LA, which will be available on Peacock at the very end of this. But until then, I'll see you guys then. But again, thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't yet, like, favorite, share if you want to. Ring that bell and follow social media for more. But until we see each other again, thank you so much for watching. Please stay safe out there, be good to each other, and as always, peace out.